And then on that one too, you want to go with that?
It's me or David or something. Carry that one.
Yep. How we can make this a standing committee.
Eva.
I'd like to call the meeting to order of the Botetourt County Board of Supervisors for January 2020 Board of Supervisors session. And I'd like to call the meeting back in order from closed session and be resolved that to the best of the board members' knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempt from open meeting requirements, and only such matters as were identified in the motion to go into closed session were heard, discussed, or considered during closed session.
Second. Aye.
Yes. Yes. Okay. And at this time, I'd like to ask Dr. Scott Moore if he would lead us in the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. At this time, we'd like to have a moment of silence. If you would like to pray during this time or just meditate or however you want to use that, we'll just say, just do it however you would like. So let's just have a moment of silence. All right. Thank you. At this time, we're going to have the 2020 Board of Supervisors reorganization meeting, and Mr. LaRoe, I'll turn that over to you at this point.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, board members and citizens that are here, staff as well. Thank you for the opportunity. It's always a pleasure to start off the year. Here it is 2020, and starting off the year with the reorganization of the board and being able to actually do that. At this point, what I would say is that we would be in the process of actually electing a chair and a vice chair. We would elect those in that order, and then after that election, then we'll turn it back over to the chair and for the adoption of the bylaws. So, with that being said, are there any nominations for the position of chair? There is a motion for Mr. Billy Martin. Anyone else that would be, as part of the, be nominated as chair?
I move the nomination to be closed.
Okay. There's a motion has been made, and there's a second to that. Okay, motion's been made and seconded that nominations be closed. All those in favor, any discussion about that, I guess might end up asking. If there's no discussion, then we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of closing nominations, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Let the record show that it was an affirmative vote on that, so the nominations are closed. Therefore, there's really no need to actually vote on Mr. Martin, since there's only one applicant for the position and one nomination. However, just for protocol purposes, we'll go ahead and vote on Mr. Martin to see if we can get a unanimous vote. Not sure that will happen, but we'll try anyway. All those in favor of Mr. Martin being the chair of the Board of Supervisors of Botetourt County for the year 2020, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Seems like we did have some dissension. Actually not.
Chairman Martin.
Please let the record show that it was unanimous vote. At this point, we would end up asking for nominations for the position of vice chair.
I'd like to nominate Dr. Mac Scott.
Second.
There's been a nomination of Dr. Max Scott. Anyone else? Chair, is there a motion to close nominations? A motion's been made to close nominations. Is there a second?
Second.
Second's been made. Any discussion? Okay, we'll be voting on closing nominations for the position of vice chair. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Let the record show is unanimous that the nominations will be closed. And just like Mr. Martin, for the protocol, we'll go ahead and vote on the vice chair. All those in favor of Dr. Max Scott Horn as vice chair of the Botetourt County Board of Supervisors signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Congratulations. Pleasure to serve with you this past year, and it'll be a pleasure to serve with you this year. And anything that we can do as a staff, I'll be more than happy to try to do there. At this point, Mr. Martin, we would turn it back over to you as chair for the bylaws approval at this point.
You want to go ahead and sign the committees first?
It would be up to you, how you wanted to do that, Mr. Martin.
Since I've got them in front of me.
Okay.
Let's do that then. And we're looking at the assignments this year for 2020. There are two changes that I would like to make. Number one, I would like to add Dr. Bailey onto the budget committee. And I'll take myself off that as chairman. I'll be on that anyway, but I'd like to add Dr. Bailey to that. And you wanted to stay on as planning. And I think that was it. Are there any other changes that you gentlemen would like to make? Are you satisfied with where you've been this past year and would like to remain on those committees? Okay, I think we've all done real well on those, and I appreciate that. So with that, we need to go through these, Mr. LaRue. I don't think we need to, since they're all good. Okay. Okay. Then we'd like to look at the bylaws for the Board of Supervisors of Botetourt County and vote on that. Is there any discussion on that before we take a vote? We've got three changes in the bylaws that we've already discussed. If there's no question or no discussion on it, do I get a motion to approve?
Mr. Chairman, can we articulate those changes so we?
Yes, sir. Mr. Lower, you want to do that, or you want me to?
Mr. Martin, while I get the computer pulled up, you may want to go ahead and vote on the committee assignments, if that would be okay.
Okay, does anyone have any Any question on the committee assignments? Okay, we have a motion to be approved and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, okay.
Okay.
Motion carried. Thank you, sir.
No problem at all. With the board revised bylaws, there were a few things that were actually being noted in here, that they were shown in red in your board packet. Those were that the provisions that the meeting minutes shall be posted to the county's website as soon as possible after approval. Some people sometimes ask the question of when are things posted to the website and things of that sort. This would just hold us accountable to actually get that done as soon as possible after the board meeting. After that meeting, once you end up approving those minutes. More transparency is what we were looking for. Also, there would end up being a designation of a separate board member comment period. Currently, there is no actual place on the agenda for additional comments from board members. The way that this would end up working, hopefully, is that and I've seen it work in the past, is that there would actually be a time slot after committee reports of where board members would end up having a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever it would end up taking to actually make comments about any of the topics that you have that may not have come up before the board at that point. The additional comment was the removal of the reference to a specific room and location at the Education Training Center for the regular meetings. This is where the meeting would end up being, and it would end up being in here normally. There may be some instance whenever it needed to be somewhere else, but it would still be in this building. So that was giving up that reference to a particular location. The last piece of this that was recommended by our attorney was that board member participation in electronic meetings is possible, but that is under the parameters. I think, Mr. Locke, we have 2 meetings per year per member. Is that the provision?
Mr. LaRue, it allows a board member to participate electronically, provided they notify the board chairman before the meeting of their intent to do so. Secondly, that a quorum of the board is physically assembled at the location of the meeting. Third, that everybody can hear each other speak, which means that essentially it must be on some type of a speaker where they can hear all of the microphones, as well as the board members being able to hear them. And it can be done twice a year for a personal matter, assuming that the other members of the board who are actually physically assembled vote to allow it, or due to a medical emergency or medical reason that's keeping the person away. If it's a personal reason, it can happen no more than 2 times. For medical reasons, it can happen as many as it needs to for the medical emergency.
I do know that we have had a couple times whenever we've had surgeries or various sicknesses or commitments that were not necessarily scheduled, that would end up allowing the member to be here in electronic means to be a part of the discussion. That's a new provision by the Commonwealth that ends up allowing that to take place.
Do we need a motion on that, or will we be able to discuss it?
Yes, I think we need to, if we would amend it, we need to vote on it.
Yes. That would be
The
great.
motion goes to it, so.
Yes.
In order to get it on the table, that's the question. Can I vote for it? I mean, move for it and then vote against it?
Absolutely.
Okay, well, I move that we approve this bylaw changes.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Yeah,
say aye.
No, this is the discussion.
I want to open for discussion. The last one, I understand the advantage of electronic meetings, and I'm all for making meetings as accessible as possible to the board members, but I guess, I mean, I've experienced so many electronic meetings over the years in business and volunteer organizations and so on, and you just, I guess two things. The whole concept, I hate to be a total traditionalist, but you kind of lose discipline in a way. As soon as you begin to break down responsibilities to be in a place, you begin to break down, I think, the commitment to your responsibilities. That's kind of abstract. The other, but the real thing is, you just don't get the connection that you have personally. And over time, you just begin to lose some of the commitment, some of the sense of importance of the meetings. Looking back over the 20 years that I know of, it hasn't really been a problem for this board. I mean, people make an effort to be at these meetings. And I think we should. I think there's very little that should get in the way of our attendance at these meetings, other than maybe medical issues. So, you know, I'll say that I'm opposed to the idea of electronic meetings. I personally would entertain an idea of stricter controls over it, like maybe limited only to health issues. But just as a general rule, I would propose that we not include the electronic meeting option.
Yes, sir.
One of the things that we bring to point, I think, is the medical. We've all been caught up in a situation where we've been in a medical setting and unable to attend. Now, under those medical settings, sometimes we've been drugged so much we really don't want us phoning.
That's a good point.
So, in any event, there's been a time that I'd like to be. I did come. I only lasted a short period of time, but I think that might be good. The other thing I wanted to ask Honorable Clinton is the fact we have the governor, when there's a state of emergency, getting in touch with all of us to have electronic meeting. Would that be approved? I mean, you approve that situation? Okay. I certainly understand what he's talking about. I would try to move forward definitely with if there is a medical issue, and also the governor's state of emergency.
Any other comments?
And do we have anything that might be altering or might be able to tighten it up a little bit more if there's other issues that you need to be on the phone and you cannot make it? Business or whatever it may be. Is there some things that we could put in there to tighten it up a little bit more? It would be applicable to what Mr. Clinton's talking about.
Dr. Scott, it's very easy for me just to strike through the section about the personal matter exception and to leave in the medical and state emergency exceptions. It's a little bit harder. As an attorney, there are I can suggest to you many different things that would be allowable. It's just what I've put in here. Such member is unable to attend the meeting due to a personal matter and identifies with specificity the nature of the personal matter. Participation by a member pursuant to this subdivision is limited each calendar year to 2 meetings. That is the most that you are permitted under state law to do. You're not required to permit that. You can put in a provision that, let's say, makes it so that it has to be for a business purpose and it have to be more than 100 miles away from the meeting or whatever you want. You can make it stricter. That's the least restrictive that you can put it. But it's up to you all to decide what you want to do.
What are your thoughts?
I hate to prolong this, but why don't we table it and study it a little bit and come up with something? Does that make sense?
We know all these bylaws B and C are definitely in. It's just A that we need to discuss.
Yeah.
So table this until our next.
That'd be my proposal.
Can you all accept?
Yes.
Yeah, meeting sections 1 through 8 and 10, and then we'll come back to section 9 of the bylaws.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're table it.
Well, so moved. What you're asking, everything
On table now.
except for 1 through 8 is the bylaws is
motion on that? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried, okay.
And I'll move that we table for further discussion, item 9.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Do we hear any discussion on it?
Let me add to that motion, for report back by the March meeting, that gives time.
March.
March meeting, and we'll have a report back on that, item 9.
Okay. Yeah, we hear that. Okay, we have a motion second on the floor. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion is carried. All right, thank you. Next agenda item, Mr. Farmer, I believe you have a new employee that you would like to introduce.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, members, thank you for the opportunity to introduce Josh Willett. He began as a recreation coordinator on November 13th. He's doing a great job. Josh moved here in February with his wife, citing the beauty of the region as a reason for picking this area. Josh has a Bachelor of Science in Public Policy and Administration. Previously worked for the city of Pinellas Park in Florida, where he administered events at both their indoor and outdoor facilities. And we are greatly benefiting from his expertise, his skills, and his abilities, and we're really glad to have him on our team. So I just want to introduce him to you today.
Good, welcome to Botetourt County.
Thanks, sir.
Are you ready moving up here for cold weather yet?
No, sir, it's still an old to me, I still enjoy it.
Well, we're glad to have him. Look forward to working with you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Farmer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
At this time, we will have a public comment period, and I have one individual that signed up to speak at these levels. You can come up front to the podium and give us your name and your address.
Hello, gentlemen. You're probably seeing me here pretty soon. My name is Randolph Stephen Lowell. I'm at 4787 Reed Mountain Road, Coverdale. I'm a 56-year person from Botetourt County, and I'll make it just as brief as possible. I have paper pass out to you all if it's okay if I approach you. If okay.
I'm fine, how are you doing, sir?
So make it just as brief as possible. I'll just, I know we have rules and procedures that we go through, but I just request that the Botetourt Board of Supervisors just respectfully request to see if maybe I can have I'm already in business. I've been in my current location for about 14 years. The reason I handed you out that little manual about service stations, like the definition of a service station, everything's always up to interpretation. But back in December of 1944, I know things have changed then, but I think they got it right then to get where we're at now. After the war, service stations were very essential to traveling across our continent and provide a different kind of service. And even though sometimes they become maybe not so desirable because they accumulate junk cars and tow trucks and some various things of that nature. I won't elaborate much on that at this meeting. I'll be just as brief as I can, but I'm just asking for maybe a consideration of a confirmation vote and possibly to relax some restrictions that I put on my business in 2005. And at the time, I was familiar with the county's attorney and different people and whatever, so I just assumed that my zoning that I got was this B2 with special exemptions. So the 11 proffers, I'm sorry I didn't make a copy of the proffers to bring you, but maybe we can discuss it at a later time. And, anyhow, so I'm just asking for you to consider, giving me a confirmation vote on expanding my business. And in that manual that I handed you out, even though it is old school, the promotion that gives you kind of a guideline on how to develop your business, and the honesty and the kindness and keeping your place clean and various things like that. And I think I've demonstrated in 14 years that I can do that, and I'm just asking for your support. And that's all I have to say. Just hoping to give us some consideration if you have any questions for me.
Well, I think we've given you a vote of approval by allowing you to operate over there. I don't
You
think
have.
that has changed. The question I have, you said you want to relax the prior restrictions placed on your business. Now, if you're going to expand your business, or if you want us to relax any prior restrictions, you would have to spell those out and tell us what you want to do. Now, if you're going to expand your business, you need to talk to them, I believe, in planning and zoning, what you need to do down there. And as far as relaxing prior restrictions, give us a list of what you're talking about there so we can look at them and discuss them and see if there's anything that we can do.
Okay, sir.
So we're certainly open to your suggestions. That mean, that we're going to agree with you on everything, but we'll look at it and we'll work with you the best we can.
I was just hoping not to have to, well, I'll do whatever the board, y'all, the governors of Botetourt, so, but I was just, I've been through the process of planning and zoning, and I was just hoping that, like we did our Second Amendment vote, that we made Botetourt a sanctuary city. I was hoping that I could come to you all in open discussion and not so much make it easy on myself, but it's difficult to go through some of the processes and the hurdles and things and, whatever, but I mean, could I come back to you next month with a list of the proffers and the suggestions and see if you all could amend them for me?
Yeah, I don't think we'll be able to amend those on the board, are we? I mean, just, if you want to relax some of those restrictions, so you can give them to us and let us review them and discuss them and then, get back with you.
If he wants to file an application to make text amendments to the zoning ordinance, which is my understanding that's what he needs to do, he can certainly file that with the Board of Supervisors. If the Board of Supervisors is interested in hearing those, then the Board of Supervisors would ask staff and the Planning Commission to put those under consideration and bring back an application to you. The fact of the matter is that land use decisions are designed to have extensive community input and some time for deliberation by the Board of Supervisors, because once somebody's established use, that use stays in place as long as they continue doing it and don't discontinue it for 2 years. So you take the time to make sure and get the input and think through all the implications of what you're doing. And that process is, we have it well laid out, and it's a pretty well-oiled machine that Mrs. Hamilton has set up to do that.
Understand that?
No.
If you can bring it back and show us what you want, we can discuss it with Ms. Pendleton and see what we can do. I think we won't be able to vote yea or nay on it at the next meeting. But we can take it, we can look at it, we can review it, discuss it, and see what we can do.
All right, sir.
Okay?
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I got it right on that, wasn't it? Pendleton, okay, thank you. Next order of business, is a consent agenda. I want to, take item number 5 off of the consent agenda. And that's consideration of a resolution to support equal taxing authority of counties to compare those of towns and cities. And I want to pull that out and discuss that as a separate item. So, on the consent agenda, do I hear a motion to approve that with the, extraction of item number 5? So, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say yes or aye. Aye. All opposed, no. The motion carried. Now, item number 5, consideration of a resolution of support for equal taxing authority for counties to compare with those of towns and cities. In other words, now your towns and cities have the authority to raise taxes or lower taxes on things like food taxes, lodging, and things like that. And what this is saying is they want us to agree on a resolution of support for this with the General Assembly. Now, I have a problem with this myself because, you know, I think that we're taxed enough. You know, I would certainly trust the board that we have now. We have a good group of individuals that work closely together and look at the things that we think that the county needs, and then we'll vote on those. But I feel like if the wrong group of people, supervisors, get in the board after we leave, and they have the right to raise taxes anytime we want to, I don't think that would be fair to our constituents. Yes, we would make some money on this as far as the taxes, but I don't think that would offset the burden that's on the taxpayer out there. And that's just my opinion. I'll leave this up to discussion with the other board members at this time. Any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman, if we could, Mr. Chairman, if we could have administrator come forward and just give us a little bit more information on this, to give us, you know, the idea of where we're sitting, what we need, or a little bit information where we're standing with from a local, city, and county setting, and how it's different.
Mr. Chair and board members, it has been long-standing that cities, towns, and counties have actually had different taxing authorities. Cities and towns have had the authority to implement meals, cigarette, transient occupancy, and admission taxes without having to request the approval from the General Assembly. If you remember, there were additional taxation for the transient occupancy or lodging tax that ended up allowing us to enter the Virginia's Blue Ridge. That actually had to go to the General Assembly for their approval to come back to actually allow us to do that. So what this would end up doing is negate that approval process through the General Assembly. You can still do it, but you will have to have special legislation that would be supported from the Commonwealth to actually allow that to happen. This would end up giving equal taxation for Botetourt as it is already available for towns and cities. This piece of information or this resolution is not for Botetourt to actually enact any kind of taxation. What this is a resolution that was actually asked for from the Virginia Association of Counties that would end up going into the pile of resolutions that they would end up taking to the General Assembly to potentially enact legislation that would give the equal taxing authority to counties as cities and towns already enjoy. This has nothing to do with Botetourt County actually approving the taxation. However, I respectfully understand Mr. Martin's case within this. So that's really where this is just the Virginia Association of Counties had asked for county members, member association members, county association members to actually approve this resolution, send it back to them so that they could take it to the General Assembly.
So if the General Assembly did get this approved, then we would have that taxing authority.
Absolutely.
Botetourt County could.
You would have the authority, and that does not mean that you actually enacted it.
Right. Okay, well, I just, kind of funny about that. I think we were being taxed enough already.
Understand that, respectfully understand that.
Understand we don't have to enact it, so it may be approved, we don't have to do that.
Okay, any other discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I have a couple questions. So basically, this is just to make the playing field level for everybody in the county. Of course, you got towns, and you got cities that have this capability. The county itself does not. Correct. The entities within the county do.
The towns within
Right.
okay.
Would have that. So that's the law as it stands. This is a resolution, not any
No approval
Not
at all.
any statute that.
This is nothing more than a letter of support from the county toward actually getting this enacted through the General Assembly.
And it doesn't involve real estate tax or personal property tax. This is basically looks like a consumption tax consideration.
That would be correct in that, the transient occupancy, as an example, would be paid for by visitors that are coming through, Botetourt County, as an example. Cigarette taxes, of course, would end up being paid by anyone that was consuming. That would be consumption tax. Same thing with the possibility of meals tax adjustments. Same thing is anyone and everyone that would be part of that, if so enacted by the board.
So this would apply to food also in restaurants?
You can actually, way I understand it, Mr. Lockley, you can correct me, but the board itself could actually choose to do one or none of these, is that?
That's correct.
You could do one, two, none. It would be completely up to the board, even if the General Assembly gives you the authority to do it.
Including lowering taxes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hello? Okay.
But they're basically concentrating on 4 areas: meals tax, cigarette, transient occupancy, and admission tax.
Yes.
The only admission tax we would look at big.
Or the concerts at that would go on Town Center, or the concerts at the Jeter Farms, or the, some other concert, whatever there might end up being in the future.
All right, any other discussion on that? Well, do I hear a motion to approve or disapprove?
I'll second that.
Motion to approve, seconded.
Some discussion. I'll say that I understand what we're doing here. And I think what we have works pretty well, frankly. There's a lot of things I don't like about the Dillon rule, but this is one of the things that I think probably makes sense, personally. To the current situation kind of makes sense. So yeah, like you said, Mr. LaRue, we can impose any of those local taxes if we get General Assembly authority on an individual county basis. We have the ability. We just don't have the statutory ability right now. I don't know, personally, I don't have any problem with it. You know, I was looking the other day, I was comparing West Virginia to Virginia, total taxation. So you look at West Virginia and it says, sales tax, and it says 6%. I guess that's what it is. Virginia, I think, was 4.3 something, or 5 maybe. But then when you add local taxes, since West Virginia, apparently any county can have their own taxation like this is proposing. The local taxes, I think, went up to like 6.2%, you know, which is pretty significant. So, you know, it's just, to me, it makes sense to kind of hold the line on taxing authority. So, I don't know where you were headed with it, Mr. Chairman. I kind of thought you were opposed to it, but maybe you're okay with it. I'm opposed to the idea of changing it. Yeah, okay, I wasn't sure of that.
But anyway, I appreciate you coming. Sorry. We have a motion to second. All in favor, say aye.
Let's verify the motion. I don't.
To go to the General Assembly, the motion would be to approve the resolution.
Yeah, approve the resolution.
Yeah, okay, which I'm opposed to, so, okay, go ahead.
All right, everybody understand that? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Y'all opposed? No. 3-2, the motion is passed. That's one good thing that we have on this board. We can agree to disagree without getting angry at each other. It's one of the things I wanted to do at the beginning of the meeting today too. The planning commission does this at every meeting, but they introduce the members on the board. And being this is January of a new year, I would like to just quickly introduce the members of our board. To my far right is the Honorable Steve Clinton. He has the Amsterdam District. To my immediate right is the Honorable Dr. Max Scotthorn with the Valley District. To my immediate left is the Honorable Ray Sloan, who has the Buchanan District. And to my far left, the Honorable Dr. the Fincastle District. And this is our board, and I'll get to what Mr. Clinton said about a month ago. He told me, he said, you know, boards I've ever worked with. I feel the same way. I think we've got a good, working relationship, a good cohesive board up here, and, you know, if we don't agree, that's fine, you know, we just go on, so. Just wanted to do that, and, I'd like to say again to the board members, I appreciate each one of you so much, and thank you for the hard work. You're all dedicated to making Botetourt County better. And it's all a team effort. No one person does anything. It's a team effort for all of us. All right, at this time, I would like to call Mr. Tony Zabrella up to go over our approval of transfers and additional appropriations.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, honorable board members and all attendants. For the month of January, there are two transfer requests. Number one is a recurring quarterly transfer, and number two is to provide matching funds for contributions received into the Greenfield Preservation Area Fund. With respect to appropriations, there are 10 pass-through and 2 regular appropriations. Appropriations 1 through 10 are for expenditure reimbursements, donations, contributions, grant funds, insurance proceeds, and miscellaneous receipts. With respect to regular appropriation, item number 11, it's an appropriation for Eagle Rock Fire Apparatus that was classified as a prepaid expense last year since it was not placed into service until FY20. This appropriation provides for budget coverage for this item, which is now recognized as a capital outlay item in FY20. Finally, appropriation number 12 is budget funding for the new Juvenile Domestic Relations District Court that began operations this month, separate and distinct from General District Court. Respectfully requested that these transfers and appropriations be approved by the board. Are there any questions?
Okay, any questions, comments concerning the approval of transfers and additional appropriations? Not, do I hear a motion to approve?
Second.
A motion and a second to approve. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion is carried. And Mr. Zabrella, if you'll go to the accounts payable and ratification of the short accounts payable list.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Total expenditures being requested for approval for the last week of December and the month of January. Accounts payable for the general fund, including debt service and all other funds, combined is $1,793,330.31. Payable disbursements of note are as follows. Local Health Department, $83,581 paid to Botetourt Health Department for the FY20 third quarter funding commitment. Technology Services, $33,557 paid to E+ Technology for a SmartNet renewal for hardware and maintenance support. Under Fire and EMS, $164,987 paid to SureFlow for 23 self-contained breathing apparatus systems that came along with 46 cylinders and 23 faceplates. Under Juvenile Detention, $31,694 paid to Roanoke Valley Juvenile Detention Center for providing services for Botetourt youths. Under Fire and EMS, payments totaling $44,282 to VFIS for installment payments in Fire and EMS vehicle and property insurance coverage. Under CIP, leach tank maintenance, $215,739 paid to CST Industries for the installation of leach tank at the county landfill. And finally, under debt service, $83,694 paid to Bank of America for leases pertaining to the purchase of telecommunication equipment. These debt service payments will complete this fiscal year. Are there any questions or comments related to the requested accounts payables disbursements for the month of January?
Any questions from members of the board?
I have one. With regards to the leachate tank, is that every year that happens? That expenditure, is that a one-time?
Yeah, this is a CIP item, it's a capital improvement project that we had for FY20.
Okay, so we wouldn't anticipate that being.
No.
Thank you.
Any other question, comment? Not, do I hear a motion to approve? Approval. Second. Okay, we do have a motion and a second for approval. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Mr. Zabrella. And at this time, we would like to call Mr. Ray Barney up with a report from the Highway Department, monthly update.
Mr. Chairman, board members, it's a beautiful day in Botetourt County. I'm thankful thankful to be able to sit up and take nourishment, and glad to come to the board meeting. I would like to say, sir, that I would have to agree wholeheartedly about the cohesiveness of the board. I've worked with a few myself, and this one is as good as any, better than most.
Thank you, sir.
I certainly appreciate it.
Where's that crow? Where's the crow?
Where's that?
So can I. That's for sure. Some updates. Oh, by the way, my young protege, you'll notice I'm alone today. She sends her regrets. There are a couple items that pertain to Botetourt County that she's desperately working on. And so I told her, by all means, you stay there, and I think I can handle the board members. And if not, then next time I'll just send you to them and I'll stay at the house. So we've agreed to that. So she's back there working hard. Let's talk first about the construction projects we have. Gala is actually moving on. I've got a little update on the item that talks about the detour that's planned to install the box culvert across 220 and the Locust Bottom Road. That Locust Bottom Road closure will begin the 10th of February. So we got a little extra word on that today. Now that it's scheduled out, I wanted to share that with you. The idea is that hopefully by early April, that detour will be out of the way. Hopefully they can get that. But they are moving on, and that's a good thing. We're glad to see those improvements finished. For the bridge rehabilitation that we have on Ballpark Road, we worked with the contractor. The contractor was really amenable, and I was really glad to see that they were willing to adjust their work hours to accommodate the local traffic that they have and some of the issues that came up as part of that. So as you can see, their work hours are now 9 to 3, and they're doing that even with that, doing intermittent flagging. So if something comes up, then they back the track off the bridge and let folks through, and that's fantastic. Not many contractors would agree to that, for any number of reasons. I'm not necessarily saying that contractors are a bad bunch, but contractors are in business to make money, and something like this can definitely affect the schedule. And that contractor has been very good to work with. We're glad to have him. The yearly resurfacing contracts, I'll provide you some information in there. That's until we get the things finalized and know what we're doing. That's basically just an update, just sort of a placeholder. The land development projects, again, lots of changes this month. A lot of things have happened. Some plans have gone back out. The Orchards of Ashley, we're still waiting on the county. I think the county's still working through part of that process, and then we're ready to move on. When that happens, there's an issue of that right away under the AEP power line out there that we're trying to get resolved. Daleville Town Center Phase 3, as you can see, we got letters to go. They had a few missteps in some of the construction, so we're working through that. Once we get those things completed, revised, then we'll move ahead to the letter of approval that needs to send those folks. A couple of gas folks here that are doing some things, and if you're interested in the details of those, I'll certainly be glad to provide them with you, but needless to say, they're putting in gas, and one of the things they're certainly interested in is extending gas to the school. Fieldstone, basically, if you went to the bottom of the page and looked at that, all of the comments, we've submitted our comments to the county. We met with county staff, we met with the developer and the developer's engineer, talked about some entrance issues and some things like that. Right now, the ball is in our court. We're currently reviewing the plans that they've submitted us, and one of the things that actually we're working on this afternoon is working with traffic engineering to get that response, so we can get that response back to the county and the developer, so the developer can continue to move forward. And that's important to us. I know it's certainly important to the developer as well. Sample Lane subdivision, the comments were sent back in December, and they will have to make a resubmittal for that. The water line extension, that was actually approved. A little progress going forward. And then the Greenfield Meadows, the TIA for that's actually under current review. I would like to add a couple things that I don't show on here, and I'll apologize for not including them. One is the Azalea Road through truck restrictions. We received the county's letter to review that. That process is under review. So So we're in the works with that. I wanted to make sure you understood and knew that. The other thing is that we've been working together, the department has been working with the county through the fire chief and through the sheriff's office to look at some of the impacts that we've had on the interstate detour. One of the things that we identified when we met the first time, the three of us met the first time, was that there are certain places that really those daggone trucks just should not be going. And what we agreed to do is we agreed to a couple of things, and one of them was that we would look at truck restriction routes, and based on our discussion, we would come back to the county and provide recommendations to the county for those routes that we think would be better for the public if the tractor trailers were restricted on them. For example, Lithia Road, where you have the two humps where you go over the road, probably not the best place for tractor trailers to go, and Lord knows, I'm not exactly sure where they're going anyway. But the idea is that a through truck restriction does not limit or does not restrict a tractor trailer that's making a delivery or has a destination within the restriction. So if there's something that the railroad needs to take down there on a truck, they can do that. But what it would allow us during those times of emergencies to tell those folks, look, you tell us where you're going and what your business is, otherwise you find a different way to go. Of course, one of the things that happens when we have those events on the interstate is everybody, they pull out their GPS, they pull out their phone, they reroute themselves. And honestly, some of those programs just aren't that good at sending you places that you really should be going, and they're not so good about sending you places where you might not should go. So we're trying to work through some of those issues, and if there are those out there like Lithia that we all can agree that need a through truck restriction, then we'll bring that back to the board for board's consideration. Some of the projects within the residency that we're handling, construction wise, Zimmerman Road, we met with the contractor's owner this week out there to review the site. One of the things that's come up is that the site that we had within the work area to waste the material is full. So we want to talk to the contractor about what we could do. You may know that on Zimmerman Road, as you get closer to Archway, there's a restricted bridge there. So we can't take loaded dump trucks across that bridge. So what we have to do is we have to take half loaded dump trucks across. The idea was that we needed to work with the contractor and make sure he had the proper resources to give us the trucks that we needed to work off-site and get that material moved and so forth, which he has, and so we're moving forward with that. So we were in a phase there where we had stabilized the bank as we tried to work through that process, and now we're going back and finishing the road of the excavation along that bank. We're getting very close to be finished. Our hope, it looks like if things continue to go well, if we don't continue to get a lot of rain, it looks like within 2 weeks we'll be complete. And that's really a goal that we're pushing for. We have some soft spots in that road we've got to dig up, and we've got to put some material back in there. Then we're going to do the rough grade on the surface. We're going to put stone down, then we're going to leave it until we can come back next spring and do the surface. Well, this coming spring, not next spring, but hopefully, probably May, in that time frame, would be when we get the surface down on that. But that project is moving along, and we hope to be soon, finished soon. Archway, I've got a preliminary meeting, with the property owner set for Thursday afternoon. She's supposed to confirm. The idea is that we're looking for is a right of entry agreement to finish the work on the outlet. We have an easement, we have a drainage easement on the outlet pipe, but as with so many easements, to actually get to it to do the work, you can't always go on or along the easement. So we're asking her if we can use her field to access that location. So we're trying to get that finished up. Nace Road, it appears like that bank stabilization should begin next week. Hope to do that. We took the contractor to Murray Drive, reviewed the plan that we've gotten from the consultant on Murray Drive. There are probably some issues out there that are going to take a lot of coordination. One of them is utilities, water lines, and things like that. We identified what those were. We're going to have to work with the contractor on site when we go to start doing the road grading. And so there's some coordination issues that we need to work through. There's a couple of drainage issues that we're working through. So we're sending comments back to the consultant today based on that field review we had last Thursday with the contractor. So we're working on that, trying to push that project along and try to identify any of those things that might cause us to stub or toe later. We realize that thing's got to be open, and that's where we're going. That arterial preservation plan, I wish to the Lord that thing could get done or get over or something, but it's still there, and so we're continuing to carry on the board's notification, just so you'll know that we can finally get that thing done and bring some information to you. The area headquarters in-house projects, you see a list of those. There's a bunch of pipe replacements going on. Typically, we do those with lane closures. We try not to close those roads. We allow one lane of traffic at a time and work half the road, half the road. That's what we anticipate here. I will say this, that last week there was we call it a scoping meeting, which is the first meeting that we have when it comes to construction on 5 bridges in the county. Now, that's not the kind of bridge replacement that I normally send you the email that says, hey, look, we're going to be doing this work. You know, how is it going to affect school, how does it affect EMS, those kind of things. These are bridge projects. So they're going to be on a larger scale, a bigger scope. So what I'll do next week is I'll send that preliminary list out to the county so everyone will have an idea of what's going on or where it's going on. And then as that project moves along, then I'll give you more details about what the situation is. My absolute bet is that it is going to require detours. It's not quite the scope of the ballpark road, but it's going to be a larger scope than what we typically do and try to provide accommodations as best we can. There will probably be several week kind of construction for those bridges. So I'll give that to you, and if there are things that the county, if we need to get back together and talk about those, particularly with staff, we can do that, and we can make those comments known to the bridge folks and try to work through any of those issues that we can. I will send you that list next week. So, as I'm often want to do, I will ask you if there are things out there that you know about that I need to work on, and if there is, I'll take those down, and we'll go back and see what we can get done for you.
We do have a walk-on item here that's pertains to the Amsterdam Magisterial District. And it's a proposed resolution requesting VDOT acceptance of Island Green Road, that's Route 1169, Grayson Drive, Route 1170, and Cresthaven Lane, Route 1171, and Orchards of Ashland Plantation, Phase 1, into the secondary system of highways. And we wanted to bring that up.
Yes. Absolutely. And where is the board in their process of approval on the plats and so forth? I'm not. Have we already sent that? Have you sent that letter, the old one? That one we've already sent in. The previous ones on Ashland Plantation have all been submitted downtown. So as soon as we signed that letter, they came into the system. So we don't have to wait for it to go downtown for them to check off anything. The previous ones that the board approved are now in the system.
I have that,
Okay.
agenda item, the walk on.
Okay.
This is ordered, we were waiting on the, AEP, and then, we got that squared away this week.
Fantastic.
So,
Fantastic.
I'll take this after you finish.
Okay.
What else, Jim?
Mr. Chairman, I have just a couple comments, if that's okay. Mr. Barney, I want to thank you for helping smooth over things down there at Ballpark Road, and I think that worked out very well. Very appreciative of your efforts and the contractor's effort, and I've got a lot of calls thanking me and you for that working out. So just wanted that to be known.
Thank you.
And of course, I continue to appreciate any help and thoughts you have on Price's Bluff.
Sure, absolutely. And that's something that the board wants to begin thinking about, is would be nice if in April, we could have our secondary six-year plan meeting. And if that's something the board wants to talk about and provide notification to me through staff or through the board, doesn't make any difference. I'll make a presentation ready for you, so at whatever meeting you choose, but that's one of the topics that can be a discussion at that board meeting. So April would be a good month for that.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other, issues from the members of the board? If not, we do need to vote on the resolution.
Yeah, we'll get to the resolution, I'll come back.
All right, the resolution is in the package that we got, the walk-on, item, and, we need to vote on that to either approve or disapprove the resolution. Do I hear a motion?
Chairman, I think the resolution speaks for itself. It's routine. I will say, I should turn my microphone on. The resolution speaks for itself, and it is routine. Although the process, and David could confirm this, but the process is anything but routine because it had to do with contractors going bankrupt and local intervention and VDOT intervention and so on, but through the diligence of a lot of people, we got to the point that the roads have been brought up to state standards, and we are at the point where we're ready to resolve that they be set into the VDOT system. And that's what the resolution says, and I move for approval.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve this resolution. Any question? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion is carried. Thank you, Mr. Plant.
Marty, if I could, bother you for just a second. This is on Sanderson Road. You're, as a parent, I think there's a lot of parents in this room right now that would go through that process of teaching your child how to drive. So you were coming from downtown and going into Botetourt through Sanderson Road, I was in the passenger seat wanting that extra brake. Nobody's ever been there, right? But it was at nighttime, a little foggy, and you know, we're all take for granted we know these roads pretty well. The problem was, it was foggy at nighttime, there was no white line. So my question is, when is restriping happening? Because that certainly would help me as a parent.
Yes, sir.
So I know where we're off the road or not. I can feel it. I just don't want to see it.
Well, I hate, first of all, that you can feel it, but second of all, sir, I'll take care of it.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Is there anything else from Mr. Barney?
Just a question, Mr. Barney.
Yes, sir.
Mercifully, nothing to do on Azalea Road other than to keep the name in front of you. So let me ask a question about Azalea Road.
Yes, sir.
The channel protection, I don't know if you've noticed it, but downstream, forgot the name of the cross street, but where the culvert was repaired. Channel protection on both sides, was that VDOT or was that the Water Authority?
Yes.
Was it?
Yes, and we're meeting with the contractor tomorrow, being Thursday, yes. One of the culverts has been cleaned out and is functioning very well. The other culvert is a third half full. We've got to get that thing cleaned out and open that channel back up so both pipes are fully open. So we're gonna work on that. The other thing that we found in that pipe is that the joints aren't seated very well. So we're also gonna try to insert some joint sealers. They look like radiator hose clamps, except they work in reverse. You tighten them and they force this seal out. So we're gonna try to seal those gaps in those joints up with those things. If we don't, we're gonna have to end up replacing those pipes. If we can't get those joints in, we'll have to replace those pipes. We would prefer not to do that. If we did, that would be some traffic control at least for a while.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I've got one more thing, Mr. Barney.
Yes, sir.
Before you.
Yes, sir.
I was at a community meeting over in Riscony, the other week, and they were asking about, I believe it's 606 goes across Caldwell Mountain.
Yes, sir, that's right.
They, appreciative of years back of being some lines, being painted. Those lines are pretty worn at this point, so.
Sure.
And I realize part of that's in Craig County.
It is.
But, you know, it's all the same, I guess, coming across it. And, they were asking about guardrail.
At a particular location, or?
Well, it's across that
everywhere?
mountain, you know, it's pretty curious across there in spots. And, you know, I think it's pretty obvious where it's dangerous, right? You run off the road there a little bit, not gonna catch you if the trees get you, so.
True enough.
Right, so I don't know how that process works, to be honest with you, but any attention or thoughts about that, some message I can send back to them, or is there application made for guardrail like it is improvements for secondary roads? How's that work?
Generally, what happens is we evaluate the safety record for the road. If we can identify that there are run off the road accidents that are occurring that would warrant the expense, then we would install a guardrail. Part of the issue that you have with roads such as Caldwell Mountain Road, 606, is that the shoulders are so narrow that in order to accommodate guardrail, well, most of the time you have to build the shoulder first. So that gets terribly expensive terribly quickly. So usually, if we can find no warrant for the guardrail installation, typically we will not install it. Now, if we have a location that there have been several incidents, and that is the solution, then by all means, that we will do, certainly.
Okay.
And so what I can do is I can take a look at that and ask them. I will say this, probably soon, and by soon I mean within the next couple of months, we will have to close Caldwell Mountain in Craig County to replace a culvert. So that will restrict that. We'll provide public notification about that further, but just have, so that it's on the board's agenda. I think we talked about that once before. Just as a reminder, that is coming up soon. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
But yes, sir, I will look at that and the line striping. Yes, sir.
Okay, one last call. Anything else from Mr. Barney? Mr. Barney, thank you for all the work you do for us in Botetourt County. Got some business that's going on.
My privilege, sir. You know where I'm at. I'm on the other end of this phone all the time.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, our three o'clock item is an update on the 2020 reassessment. I'd like to call Gary Eames, if he would come forward. Soon go to section also.
Good afternoon, members of the board. We, in a process that is state mandated that we began nearly 2 years ago in the spring of 2018, the general property reassessment has entered its final phase for 2020. Your independent third-party contractor, Wamplerines Appraisal Group, and the county assessor appointed by you all, Gary Eames, is here to give a report. The notices for the reassessment went out earlier this month, and Mr. Eames comes to us this afternoon taking a quick break from the administrative hearings that he's holding here for 2 weeks. The next steps in the process after giving the report, the Board of Equalization will meet later in the spring and hope to have everything wrapped up by an ordinance that you all passed in the fall, this coming June 30th. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Eames, and then both of us will be on hand to answer some questions.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, board members.
Good afternoon, sir.
I wanted to stay home today as well, but admin saw fit that I come speak to you folks and go over the reassessment process. Excuse me, while I go through this. My typical day, I'm out in the field by myself looking at properties, so this part of my job is the most difficult, believe it or not. We are a Virginia-owned company, Wamplerines is, and I'd like to point out that we're a Botetourt-owned company. Our offices are located right here within Botetourt County. By the end of this year, Walgreens will have conducted 115 reassessments over 52 different localities in Virginia and North Carolina, assessing over 2 million properties. What are the requirements for a reassessment? It should be made public that it's not a Board of Supervisors requirement that we have reassessments. It's a state mandated law that requires each county to go through a reappraisal process. If a county's less than 50,000 in population, they can choose to go on a 6-year cycle. Historically, Botetourt County has performed reassessments every 4 years. The previous reassessment being in 2016. And as a contractor, it always sounds like a sales pitch, but when you do them more frequently, they are easier and you are able to keep the records a lot cleaner. So we like doing the 4-year reappraisals instead of the 6. Two would be even better. Another reason to have a reassessment, if your sales ratio would drop to below 70%, then there's some penalties that would be involved, and the state would pretty much make you do a reappraisal at that time. And this could be at any point during the process, 2, 4, 6 years. The first step in the reappraisal process is a comprehensive sales study. We come into your county and look at sales within Botetourt County. We don't come in with any preconceived ideas. We don't bring sales with us. We look at sales that are happening right here in this marketplace. After the sales study is done, each property is visited by a technician or a field inspector or appraiser, and we verify the data that's collected or that's on record at the county at that time. If the homeowner is at home, we will interview them at the door and go over the information with them on the property as far as bedrooms, number of bathrooms, basement finish, that type of thing. During this process, the county is divided into small areas called neighborhoods for the purpose of market comparison. So that way, if we divide you into neighborhoods, then we're comparing Ashley Plantation to Ashley Plantation, Tinkerview Gardens to Tinkerview Gardens, and so on. Throughout this process, we analyze sales within those neighborhoods and these market areas. We look at yearly appreciation trends and we analyze the data. Our field appraisers, we also use the GIS system to view property lines, the topography of the land, woodland, waterfront. This tool can be used to determine how much frontage a property might have if it's been cut over in the last few years, or even to locate other structures on the properties. With smartphones, we even have these apps on our phones that recognizes exactly where we're standing on the property, and you can visualize the property. Of course, in appraisals, there's 3 approaches to value. The cost approach would be what we would use for a brand new building. Once you get to a certain age, then you have to start determining how much depreciation we would apply to the property. The income approach would be used for typically apartment buildings, office rental, retail rental properties. And this is where we use the actual rents and the income stream that the property owner would provide. The sales comparison approach is the approach that we most use for residential properties. We compare living space, the style of the homes, age, condition, lot sizes, and other amenities. If you have any questions at any part of this, just please jump in. The real estate values. This reassessment, Botetourt, the overall average increase was 9.32, with the properties residential was right at 11%. Commercial properties went up on average. These are all averages, 10%, and agriculture was 5%. So with Botetourt being 9.32 average, so that's over 4 years. Some other localities that we've done this past year, Amherst and Appomattox County are both on a 6-year cycle. Their increases were 7%. Clark County 14. We just finished Franklin County as well. They were 6%. Orange County 13. Powhatan County is one that's on a 2-year cycle, and they had a 19% increase in 2 years. So you can see what's happening in the Richmond area. A couple of localities right next to us here, Roanoke County and Roanoke City, they have their own assessment staff, and these are 1-year figures, 3% and 3.3, 3.17 and 3.3. So you can see, you multiply those out by 4 years, we're still in the range there. Of course, our goal is for accurate appraisals and above all equity. We want to treat similar houses with similar houses. The primary tool that measures the mass appraisal is the ratio study. So for an example, if a house is assessed at $80,000 and it sells for $100,000, then that ratio would be 80%. When we finished collecting the data and sent out the notices, we were sitting at 97% of market value. And here's where we are right now. We're in the appeal process. We've sent notices to all the property owners, and at this point we've given them 24 days. By the time the deadline hits, they will have had 24 days to make an appointment with us or to appeal their assessment. And as of this morning, we've had 45 emails, 16 letters, and we've had 156 face-to-face appointments that have been made. So you can see, even with the increase, and you saw down the hall, there are not a lot of people here. Once we finish with our informal hearings, we will send notices out to these folks of our decision. If they're not happy with that decision, they can come back and meet with the Board of Equalization that are appointed by the Circuit Court from recommendations from the county. What is the role of the Commissioner of Revenue during all this? The Commissioner of Revenue's office, basically, they maintain all the records. They have nothing to do with the valuation of these properties. This board has nothing to do with the valuation of the real estate properties. It goes back to state code. It requires that an appraisal be done every 4 years, 4 to 6 years. So the Commissioner of Revenue, they have no say in the valuation of these assessments. They maintain the records. They keep the ownership, and they do the deeds, the splits of parcels when acreage changes, and they do a good job of that. We work in some localities that run a year behind on the transfers. It's hard to bid 100% market value when you're working on year-old data. As you can see, the 3 pigs are not exempt from taxation, and so they were, in this cartoon, they were glad to see the wolf instead of me coming by. So, any questions?
Any questions from the members of the board? Comments?
Mr. Range, do you have any commentary on, something surprises me, maybe it didn't surprise, but so we were at like 2.3% or so annually. The 9% over the 4 years, so like 2%. Roanoke County at 3.17 on an annual basis. That just seems like a big gap to me. Does that make sense
From
to
2
you?
to 3,
But theirs is so much higher.
on a yearly basis. Our ratio, we were already sitting probably pretty close to where they were to start with. So, it being a 4-year-old assessment, we're comparing sales right here in Botetourt County. So, I don't know what they were comparing in Roanoke County.
just what it is.
Yeah,
right?
well, and another example is look at Powhatan, what a tremendous increase they had. So it's locality specific, I would say.
It's interesting.
Yes.
Good, well, thank you for the presentation.
Thank you, sir.
For working on that.
All right, thank you, guys. All right.
Next, we're going to hear from the Sylvester Centennial Committee co-chairs. And after that, we'll take a 10-minute break.
I'm slow, but I'll get there.
That's all right.
Mr. Chairman, board members, I'm Angela Kuhn, and I'm one of the 4 ladies that are chairing this event. First thing we want to tell you about is the official online Botetourt County website. To access all the activities that are going on in all the many communities, you just go to botetourtva.gov and click on Quick Links, and it should take you right there. Many churches, organizations, and towns already have events on the calendars, and we're adding new ones each week. The kickoff, which is this coming Saturday, is February the 1st. It's Lord Botetourt High School from 3 to 5. Brett Watts, who is a Botetourt citizen, was raised here, went to school here, who's the chief meteorologist at WDBJ, will be our master of ceremonies. We have music, we have entertainment, we have governmental people talking, we have displays, we have food, we have school children, we have choirs, we have lots of things going on. So I hope that everybody can come. Our main speaker will be Bo Trumbo, and if you ever heard him talk, you know that he is a delightful speaker. Has a different viewpoint about some things, but it's always delightful. Following all the activities, there will be cake and punch in the cafeteria, and that's where all the displays are set up. Kathy Benson, who is sitting right here, will be highlighting 5 rare and unusual facts about Botetourt every week in the Botetourt Bee and the Fincastle Herald. The 250th anniversary celebration yard signs and banners are available for use by businesses and organizations. And we're going to show you that banner right now. And then turn around so the board can see.
And these are for use. Any companies, businesses, anything that wants to use an image. Welcome to use.
Just let us know.
Hold that.
Yeah, hold that up so they can see.
Turn it this way.
Hold it up so hard. He's short, he can't go over time.
And we also have the yard signs available, activities, businesses, just let us know.
Thank you, Lois and Donna. On March 28th and 29th, there will be an 18th century encampment at Greenfield. This interpretation of the way of life in the early settlement of Botetourt County is headed up by Danny Kyle, known by many of us, and the Fincastle Montgomery County Militia. On May the 21st, the 250th Anniversary Committee will be co-sponsoring a business after hours with the Chamber of Commerce. And several businesses. This event will be held at Bailiwick, the new event center on Old Fincastle Road, and it will be from 4:30 to 6:30. The History Museum of Western Virginia and the Historical Society of Western Virginia in Roanoke will be offering an exhibit entitled Botetourt County 250 Years of Delight. And I just love the name of that exhibit, and that's going to be from May the 28th through November the 8th, 2020. Another free event will be a special ceremony and display of Botetourt County's historic past, and it will take place at the courthouse on Saturday, May the 30th from 10 to 2. Thanks to the generosity of Ray Sloan and the Botetourt Funeral Home, a commemorative monument recognizes the 250th anniversary will be placed on the courthouse grounds near the Bicentennial Monument, depending on the progress of the work. We will have historic buildings open. The museum will be open. 18th century craftsmen and other entertainment will be there. Watch in the paper for the annual Garden Club Homes in Fincastle on April 25th. The Botetourt County Genealogy and History Fair will be held at Breckenridge Elementary from July the 9th to July the 12th. Renee Worthen and Greg Riley and their genealogy club have worked very, very hard on that. Blue Ridge Vineyard in Eagle Rock will be the site for a large fall 250th anniversary celebration. Again, no admission. On Sunday, September the 20th from 2 to 6 p.m. A nod will be given to present-day Botetourt County. A well-known band called Stone Canyon will be providing the music. There will be suitable and fun activities for people of all ages, and food trucks from local businesses will be there. We are constantly adding events, and I mean constantly. Every day, more are coming in. And we are very pleased about this because part of our mission that we thought was to showcase what Botetourt County already does and all the things that are available in Botetourt County. If you live in Botetourt County and if you are bored, that is your fault. Because there is something going on every weekend somewhere in the county. So besides the special things, we have regular things that go on. And one of those in particular, let me get the date right here, will be April 24, 25, and 26. Buchanan will be holding their annual Civil War Days. May the 16th, there will be a tour of historic Fincastle from 10 to 3. Let's see, one more thing. Botetourt County Historical Society, on the February the 8th, will be sponsoring a talk on Norval Lee. I don't know if you know who he is, but he's from Eagle Rock. He was a black man who was in the Olympics and won a gold medal. So hopefully you can come. It'll be 2 o'clock on February the 8th at the Fincastle Library with the reception after that. Want to show you something that not many of you can see yet, but here is what the magazine looks like. And I would like Juanita Feivel to stand up, please. Thank you so much. She's our editor. And there will be, by the way, this and the decals will be available this coming Saturday at the Big Do. Any questions? They're free. Yeah, they're free.
Like y'all put a lot of work into this.
We have.
A lot of work. And we do appreciate it. Yeah, any comments or questions from the board members?
Well, I appreciate all they've done. I know they've been on the road and on the phone all the whole time. I would like to have a banner put up in my office.
Okay.
With some of the magazines for the patients, if that's possible.
Yes, when we're after the Saturday, then we're going to start taking them out to businesses and various subject libraries and places like that. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
I appreciate your hard work.
Thank you.
Our next agenda item is to talk about the new county marketing logo. Before we get to that, Steve Clinton anywhere. I think Elvis left the building and he went after him. Just as soon as he walks back in. Good. Okay, we'll call the meeting back to order, and at this time, I'd like to ask Mr. Mormon, who's already forward, to come forward and to make his presentation of the new county logo. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. It's a pleasure to be with you today. This is your first meeting of Botetourt County's 250th year. And we think it's apropos that at this time, we're able to introduce a new marketing logo that's been developed for the county. The county's current marketing logo was developed, I want to say in the early 2000s, and it served us pretty well over that time. But over the years, previous boards felt like it was time to maybe re-examine that and freshen it up and develop a new look that may be a little more fresh and forward-looking for our next 250 years. So I would like to introduce Tony Pearman, who's the CEO of Access. They're a marketing and advertising firm in Roanoke. They've collaborated with us on this, and they work with the staff team that's consisted of, let's see, Susan Tinscher, Heather Fay, Mahesh Taylor, Cody Sexton, and myself. And if you have not had the pleasure of working on a mission to come up with a new marketing logo for an organization, you don't know what you've missed. It's probably if you do it once, that's enough. But so I'll ask Tony if he would to come and share with you the new logo, and then I'm going to invite Landon Howard with the Virginia's Blue Ridge to come and speak a little bit about how that's being applied regionally in some regional marketing efforts.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, thank you very much. It is an honor to be here. Access, our firm, calls Virginia's Blue Ridge our home, so we were very, very pleased to be asked to be able to help Botetourt County with this challenge. We were engaged, as David said, because the board and Gary identified that the current logo really wasn't meeting the needs. It wasn't really reflecting your proud past or the bright future that you think your hometown demonstrates. And as David also said, quite frankly, this stuff ain't easy. Coming up with logos is more challenging than it would appear. Access works with companies of all sizes, all over the country and all over the world. And we've done websites of 10,000 pages and TV spots, but logos are the hardest thing we do. And I think that's just very simply because they are very subjective. One person may love something, another person may not. And there is really, truly no right or wrong. So making everyone happy, as in many things in life, is often an impossible goal. When I came here today, I woke up this morning with the very confident fact that when I left today, not everyone in this room would be happy with me. So I have that going for me. What I can tell you is that I know each of you and that the team, Gary, David, and everyone has worked very, very hard to work with Access, to collaborate, to come up with a vision that we thought was reflective of what you desire. We have a bright color palette that we have applied here. The energy and excitement that is going to be reflected, generated by your growth and found in the amazing people here, and by the beautiful colors found in Botetourt County's nature. It is contemporary without being trendy, and it's rooted in the rich history of your region, the Lord Botetourt seal that you see here. And now, I'd like to invite you to watch a short video that unveils your new identity.
Botetourt County is a place where lots of folks begin their journeys. Journeys in life, journeys in business, and even spiritual journeys. It's a place that has that power. Just ask Katie and Dan, Sydney and Skylar, the Vasquez family, and this guy, and this team, and this dog, whose name is probably Bo. They started their adventures here Because Botetourt County has always been right in the sweet spot between the old world and the new, between the Blue Ridge Mountains and the Appalachians, between hope and joy. The welcome mat on the doorstep to great things. Now it's time to remind the world what a great place our county has always been, and to introduce the world to a whole new Botetourt with a new look and a new spirit, to mark the beginning of a new journey, to celebrate who we are and what we do. We start with our heritage that began more than 250 years ago with Lord Botetourt and has been handed down through the centuries and generations. From the original Baron Botetourt seal, the cinquefoil or five-leaf flower is a time-honored symbol of hope and joy, and it represents key qualities of Botetourt County, Virginia today. Because around here, there's a lot to get to know. Our rich history, our nooks and crannies, and especially our traditions and values of learning and curiosity, commitment to one another and to civic duty, to kindness and neighborly fellowship. We've got plenty to show, from our festivals and events to our folklore, arts, and natural beauty. Everywhere you look, you can see us grow, from the local markets and farms to new businesses and new neighbors that have come from around the world to make Botetourt home. We're continuing to blossom with a flavor and vitality all our own. No matter what your speed, we've got an irresistible flow. You can feel it in the open air, lose yourself in it on the open water, and find yourself a part of it on the open road. It's these virtues that move us onward toward new possibilities to create, to achieve, to improve, while protecting what we hold so dear. Making the world a better place by making our part of the world ever better. We're a county so big and bold, it feels right to keep our brand short and sweet. We're BOCO, a distinctive moniker that means we're one of a kind. Though its roots intertwine with our tradition, its new look says so much about where we're going. A vibrant future, confident and audacious, filled with fresh ideas and new hopes. It's where we've been, and it's where we're going. It's BOCO, Botetourt County, Virginia.
Thank you very much. We've helped develop a comprehensive style guide also with this. It can be applied and used a number of ways to help add strength and consistency to your brand without being restrictive. And while we want to be very respectful, of course, of our neighbors, both near and far, we think when you see your new logo alongside others in the region, we think you will agree we've created something that's fresh and unique, which we hope to do, not be repetitive of others, and that helps BOCO stand out in a crowd. Thank you for your time and this wonderful opportunity. We sincerely appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next is Mr. Landon Howard.
Good afternoon.
Thank you, sir.
It is great to be at BOCO here in Virginia's Blue Ridge, and I was the first to be able to say that. So that's really great. We're really excited to be here. Botetourt County in Virginia's Blue Ridge. I think BOCO and BBR has a really great catchy ring to it. It's a great identifier. It's easy to remember. And I think this logo is going to grow some legs, and not only for locals, but also for visitors and for growing the county. We've had 10 consecutive record years of growth in BVR, and Botetourt County is a major part of that, and there's much more to come with that. Tell you what, this logo, it's got beautiful colors. It reminds me of the beautiful scenery of Botetourt County. It certainly ties into its history with Lord Botetourt himself. And I think the logo makes a great impression. And I brought with me some finials and signs. We've got our new signs that'll be going up and here, right here in BOCO. And we'll go ahead and hand those to you. Great. Thank you, sir. This is our new sign system that's going to be going into 5 of our jurisdictions, and you can see that the finial which includes the logo image. It's going to look really, really great for Botetourt. And it's going to connect us all together and give us a unique, one-of-a-kind identity. I'm sold, and we look forward to using this to market Botetourt County and Virginia's Blue Ridge. Congratulations, and we look forward to another 10 years of growth ahead of us. And I think it's also appropriate to say happy birthday as well. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Larry. Appreciate that very much. All right, David?
Mr. Chairman, that's our presentation. Be happy to entertain any questions if any of you have any.
You know, I never have been much on logos and things like that. When we met and you explained what the leaves were and the colors were and all that, that really made a difference. And it was really interesting, and I appreciate you sitting down with us and going over that. Any comments from other board members?
Thanks for putting a shot of cows in there, that little video.
When we bought it up without blood.
Leave it up to the veterinarian, right? Okay, anything else, David?
No, sir.
All right, thank you so much. Next, we have a presentation on behalf of the Natural Bridge State Park. We have Bob Gilbert and Jim Jones. If you'd like to come forward, we'll come up to the podium if you would and share with us what you have on your mind.
Thank you, gentlemen, for having us here today. My name is Jim Jones. I am the park manager at Natural Bridge State Park. I have been there since the beginning. It was 2016 when we dedicated it on September the 24th. And what I like to do is try and give you all a little bit of an update of the things that have been going on. And then Bob's going to speak to you. He is our fringe president. He's going to speak to you about some of the things that we need as a state agency. I couldn't thank you more for having set before us the presentation that you just had, because what I see in that is a county that's vibrant, is focused, and is concentrated on its people, its economic development. And we wanted to let you know that as a region, Natural Bridge State Park and Dowdett State Park supports the economic development here in this region, and feel like we are just as much a part of our area's success as the things that are going on here. In fiscal year 17, Natural Bridge State Park had just started. We were the 6th highest revenue producing state park out of 38 in Virginia. In 2018, we moved to the 4th. Last year, in fiscal year 19, we're in 2nd place. We're only behind First Landing. First Landing has cabins, camping, and the city of Virginia Beach. So there's an economic development perspective. Natural Bridge has $11.2 million economic impact here in our region. Our annual improvement, if you look at that from 2017, is like 1.2%. Over 2018, it's 3.6%. Our merchandise sales has increased by about 1.1% over 2018, and our admission has increased by about 5% over 2018. One of the things that we've started that we've done differently than we've had in the past is our Artisan Center. It's where consignment occurs, and a lot of local artisans from this area in Rockbridge County demonstrate their arts. We've created a retail team, and by having that retail team, there's one person that's dedicated to consignment. And she has grown that from $37,000 in 2016 to $63,000 total gross sales last year. Now 30% of that comes to the park, so it's a revenue stream, $19,000 and some change has come in as a growth in our overall revenue income. That's a 72% growth from the first year. And we're doing this with wage staff. That's what's most impressive. A lot of state parks do just that with wage staff. There are 4 full-time people right now. We're getting ready to interview and self-fund a 5th staff person, an assistant park manager, here in February. Some of the programs that we've been doing over the last year in 2019 is Arts in the Park. Because of the opportunities we have there with the consignment, we are able to do Arts in the Park and do some programming there. We have a winter speaker series, which we have had for Black History Month. We've also had Black Bear, Michael Pelton, who's a renowned biologist in black bears, and tomorrow or tonight, we'll be having a speaker on quail. Other things we've been doing, we'll have our 4th annual Kids Fishing Day, which is always the first Saturday of April. The luminaries that we have had this past December was the best set of luminaries that we have had, were carriage rides from the Lexington Carriage Company underneath the bridge with lighting, and if you have not done that, a lot of the local residents are making that their new tradition for Christmas, and we invite you to come and visit with us. So the 2nd and 3rd weekends of December. Park After Dark is something that we're working on, and that's in conjunction with what we want to and hope to become an international dark sky accredited park, where we are able to do programming for astronomy. The Roanoke Astronomical Society, as well as the Southern Virginia University professors, have conducted programs at the park for that. And our Garden Club of Virginia has supported us by donating over the last 3 years some $30,000 to create what we call an interactive classroom and a base camp. And base camp is just that Natural Bridge can be that gateway for people to come and visit and see what is in the park and experience it and experience the nature. We have several school field trips that occur, of which Cloverdale and Breckenridge will be coming to visit the park this spring. We have several, almost 9,000 to 10,000 students who come and visit the park annually for school field trips. They experience the geology, the sciences, and other SOLs, as well as the cultural history that the Monacan Living History offers. This year we will be taking on 2 new roles, 2 responsibilities that we hadn't had in the past. We'll be taking on the food service that was provided and contractually serviced through the hotel, and we will also be taking on later on this year, as the Monacan contract expires, we'll be taking on the operations of the Monacan exhibit in 2021. So that's the things that are happening at the bridge now. And I'd like to turn the microphone over to Bob Gilbert, our friend president, and give you some more information about what's going on with the park in the area. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Jim gets to talk about the good stuff. I'm here to talk about some of the nitty-gritties. It is great that Jim is, and the job that his folks are doing down there with so few staff. He has, as he mentioned, 4 full-time employees. Only 2 of those full-time employees are partially funded by the state. Jim gets $120,000 from the state general fund. That's all that he gets from the general fund, $120,000. It's amazing what they've been able to accomplish with so few full-time people. As he mentioned, he has been given permission to hire 1 more full-time employee, but as he had mentioned also, it has to come out of his own pocket, out of the funds that he raises. As you may remember, when the park was acquired and became a state park, there was a considerable debt that came along with that. Right now, the balance on that debt is about $6.5 million, a little better than $6.5 million. This upcoming November, that payment, which has been in the $325,000 range, jumps to $579,000 this fall. That comes out of his hide as well. It comes out of the revenues that he's able to generate there at the park. So not only is he having to fund his operations, he's also having to fund this debt. So we're not here to ask you all for money. If you care to give us some, we would probably accept it. But what we need from you all is your help. Senator Deeds, Cree Deeds, and Delegate Representative Ronnie Campbell have both introduced budget amendments that request 5 additional full-time positions to be funded with state general funds. What we need from you all is, if you know legislators, I'm sure you know Senator Steve Newman, sure you know Delegate Terry Austin and Delegate Chris Head. If you would speak with them and ask for their support of these budget amendments, we would certainly be appreciative. There's also one other piece of legislation that we would ask that you all encourage them to endorse or support, and it was another bill, Senate Bill 790, introduced by Senator Deeds, that asked that conservation officers such as Jim Jones, that they be treated as Valor's employees. In other words, that they would participate in the retirement, instead of just the Virginia retirement system, they would belong to the law enforcement group, and so that they would be entitled to the same benefits that law enforcement officers are entitled to. Jim wears a gun. He's not wearing it today, thank goodness, but you know, when I go over to the park, whenever I go over there, he wears a gun. He's got about 1,600 acres over there. There's lots of game on that land. There's a lot of people that unfortunately like to do things that aren't necessarily positive and good. But you know, he puts his life on the line. He's not out there on the interstate. I understand that, but he still comes up against some sticky situations from time to time. Jim and his folks had 172,000 visitors there at the park this past year. And what I was going to say is that, you know, 172,000 people just up the road here probably are looking for a place to eat. They're looking for other things to do. And after seeing that presentation on BOCO, I'm not so sure that we weren't the beneficiary for those folks that having come to Botetourt County. But we can help one another. And now I'm certain that, you know, the Natural Bridge drawing those folks in and them spending that money there, that they're spending money to either fill up their cars, to fill up their bellies, or looking for other things to do. And we just appreciate any support that you all can provide us. We appreciate you talking to these legislators and on our behalf, and we just thank you for this time and opportunity. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Any members of the board have any questions or comments before they leave the podium? Okay, well, thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, I'll just underscore some of the points. I was just thinking it's a good deal of price, at 5 times the price as far as the support that we're getting from the general funds. And when you think about all the diversity of programs and the historical and geological and natural significance of the Natural Bridge itself, it's really something, it's an asset that this area has that we dare not overlook. I think probably we've overlooked it for too many years in the past. Since it's become a state park, it's become much more prominent and much more inviting, and I think we're headed in the right direction. For a while, I certainly support the idea that this board support both of those resolutions.
Good. Anyone else? Thank you, gentlemen. We appreciate you coming down and sharing the information with us, and we'll certainly keep that in mind, trying to get you some support. Thank you. Okay, at this time, I'd like to ask our county attorney, not our county attorney, but our state Commonwealth attorney, John Alexander, to come forward and make a presentation on the potential creation of the Botetourt County Drug Treatment Program. Yes.
Excuse me, Chairman, we need to adopt the tax resolutions for
resolution funding support for Natural Bridge State Park, in Virginia's FY 2021 budget. Any questions on that? Any other comments? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay, motion carried. Okay, thank you, Mac. I didn't do it quite for it. Mr. Alexander.
Yes, sir.
Floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Gentlemen, I appreciate you allowing me to come before you this afternoon. As you all know, I'm the Commonwealth Attorney for Botetourt County, and as you also know, that makes me a prosecutor. That's what I do for a living. So the gentleman that spoke earlier said that he knew for sure as he left here today there were going to be some folks who were unhappy with him, and I can say that pretty much every day because as a prosecutor, almost every day there's at least one person who's very unhappy with me. But I'm here today to talk to you about the potential of a drug court in Botetourt County. I've been a prosecutor for 24 years. And the job of a prosecutor is to prosecute criminal cases. But the overall goal of a prosecutor is to enhance public safety. In the 24 years that I've been prosecuting, I've seen the effect of drugs on criminal activity and on the citizens in Roanoke County and Botetourt County where I've prosecuted. And I've become convinced that when we offer the ability for drug offenders to have treatment and for that to be an option, particularly intensive treatment, that's an enhancement in public safety. And for that reason, since I became Commonwealth Attorney in February of 2018, it's been one of my goals to launch a drug treatment court program here in Botetourt County. I also recognize, though, that a lot of people, that term gets thrown around often, and a lot of people don't really know what a drug treatment court is. And so I want to sort of explain that to you and kind of go through what process we're in terms of trying to launch a drug court here in Botetourt. Where we are on that is we have established a local advisory committee for the drug court, which is a requirement for applying for a state drug court position. We're in the process of collecting the data that we are required for that application, in the process of identifying resources that we can use to treat drug offenders, and in the process of, as I said, preparing the application for the state office of the executive secretary who will fund drug court. So as Mr. Gilbert, I believe, said, I'm not here to ask you for money, but I'll add yet, because there may be a request at some point, and I'll explain that in more detail later. What a drug court is it's called a drug court colloquially, but what it really is a drug treatment court docket. What that means is that drug offenders are allowed to be placed in an alternative process so that they are put into a track for intensive drug treatment. What it requires is intensive treatment for drug offenders. It requires accountability for drug offenders through frequent court sessions, as well as peer accountability among the drug court participants. It requires frequent probation contacts and drug tests. It requires achievement of specific meaningful goals. It requires them to work. It requires them to do community service. It requires them to basically learn the tools they need in order to get clean and stay clean. And of course, it requires them to demonstrate the ability to stay clean over an extended period of time. Typical time in drug court is 1 year to 2 years. What drug court is not is it is not available for violent offenders. Obviously, public safety is first, and so there are strict requirements and strict eligibility requirements for folks entering the drug court. The Drug Court Advisory Council has control over that. The judge has control over it. The Commonwealth Attorney has control over it. It's also not a way to avoid accountability. Drug court is about accountability for drug offenders, but it's about accountability that allows them to access treatment versus incarceration. It's also not a magic bullet. It doesn't always work, but there is a benefit, particularly for those who graduate from the program, which is almost immeasurable. What drug court requires is it requires commitment from judges, Commonwealth attorneys, defense counsel, as well as probation officers and treatment providers. In Virginia at this time, there are 39 adult drug court programs. Of those 39 programs, there are probably 39 different models. I was somewhat naive when I came to the idea of a drug court, thinking that there was a template that we could sort of sit down and go from. The truth is that there really isn't a template. There are as many different models as there are drug courts. Some are use the adult probation as their primary force. Some use community service board. So it's different in each jurisdiction. So we are effectively building our drug court from the ground up. What that will probably require at some point is for us to have a pilot program which will require us to marshal resources for treatment for some period of time so that we can demonstrate the population and the ability to carry out the program prior to receiving grant funding from the state. So that is the potential request for funds that may happen down the line. If that happens, it will be for a relatively short period of time because the idea will be to cover treatment resources until the state steps in and allows us to have grant funds to cover those resources. The grant funding requires a pretty rigorous application. It requires constant reporting back of data about the program to ensure that it's following the guidelines. The guidelines from the state are very specific. As I said, there are 39 programs in the state. The Office of the Executive Secretary's 2019 summary for drug courts, it says that the savings to the Commonwealth of Virginia, estimates the savings to the Commonwealth of those drug courts is $10.7 billion. They estimate that each successful drug court participant saves the Commonwealth $19,000 in costs that would have gone into incarceration, into recidivism, into arrests, into additional probation hours. And so ultimately, any resources provided for a drug court program is not really an outlay of resources, but it's really a reallocation of resources. The idea being that instead of housing people at enormous expense daily, we are offering them the tools so that they don't reoffend, and so that we can put them back into the community where they can support their families, where social services doesn't have to be involved with their families, and where instead of being a cost to Botetourt County, they can be a benefit. And so at some point, well, at a future meeting, I hope to come back to you with much more concrete numbers and a more concrete blueprint. But at this point, I wanted to offer you both the general idea of the drug court, general description, and offer you the opportunity to ask me any questions you might have about the program as we build it.
Will this be in lieu of maybe putting them in jail for drug use?
Yes, sir, and as I said, there are different models. So there are some where folks come in and they avoid a conviction, a felony conviction, by going through the drug court program. My vision for the program really is more for those folks who we see so frequently, folks who are on probation, and they come back over and over again for probation revocations because they simply cannot get out of the cycle of drug abuse. If we can reroute those folks, we are truly stopping people from going to the penitentiary for years at a time, which is expensive, but it also is so destructive to families and communities that, again, there are money savings which have been estimated by the Supreme Court, but there are intangible savings which I think can't even be estimated, much less evaluated.
How do you measure their improvements in performance on that?
The way the drug court works is that they come back to court very frequently, once every week, or really usually once every 2 weeks. They meet in a group that is just the drug court participants, and each participant has a probation officer who will report to the court how they've done, whether they've been working steadily, whether they've done their community service hours, whether they've been testing clean, and so the judge has a very frequent window into their lives to make sure that they're doing all the things that are required of them. The flip side of that is, if they get off track, there's an immediate sanction. The drug court can put them in jail for a weekend without a notice and hearing, without stretching it out they can have immediate sanctions so that the drug court can make them aware that they have to stay on track in order to avoid those sanctions. The immediacy of it, of the sanctions, is really a huge element of drug court. The other really big element from my point of view is the peer relationships that the drug court participants build. I've been fortunate enough to go to several drug court graduations, and it's really eye-opening, the sort of cohesiveness of the group of participants by the time they get to the stage where they're able to graduate successfully, because they effectively looked after each other for 2 years.
Any questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman, if I can, I had an opportunity to work in a penitentiary, and seeing these as patients, but seeing the individuals that these people have been, their homes, their family has been ruined, and trying to find a way out is the answer. In this situation, I can't wait for you to come back and have a proposal for us to approve. So looking forward to that. I certainly would like to see a quarterly number if we could, because we're seeing a rise in the situation. Hopefully be able to calm it down. Thank you for bringing it forward.
Any other comments or questions?
How many locations would you say in Virginia, other counties doing this?
There are, excuse me, there are 39 drug courts. 32 of them are sanctioned by the Supreme Court, so they're grant funded through the Virginia Supreme Court. The others are locally run. Those are adult drug courts. There are also juvenile drug courts in Virginia. And there is an annual summary of drug courts available through the Office of the Executive Secretary of the Supreme Court if you're interested in some light reading.
All right, any other questions, discussion? Mr. Alexander, thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me.
Sharing that with us. Good luck.
I would, as we all remember, the wind farm has been proposed to change, text amendment changes have been proposed for the Eagle Rock area there on North Mountain. And I have had some conversation with Nicole Pendleton, our Director of Community Development, so I would like to propose that with her blessing that maybe we consider a community meeting scenario there in the Eagle Rock area to allow the citizens an opportunity to ask questions about the process, I would call it, the process that this request is going to require us to follow. So just to be clear, this community meeting would be held. I think something like this happened last time, Nicole, in 2016 when the wind project was first being considered. And, I think it would be advantageous if we were to go through a similar process to allow transparency for that situation.
Dr. Bailey, if I can, this is just for the citizens, not for Apex either. It's just the transparency of the process.
That's right. Nicole could probably describe it maybe a little better than I just did, but it's primarily for citizens, concerned citizens, to go and to be able to ask Nicole and her group, about the process. It's not particularly a functional meeting to ask about the dynamics of the wind farm. It's to understand the process that the county goes through to consider the request.
Absolutely. Chairman, Dr. Bailey, when we held the community meeting for the first iteration of the text amendments, we were able to gather input from the citizens through the process as well as obtaining information, written information. And we'd be more than happy to go through that process again and provide the opportunity for the citizens of Botetourt to give us input on the text amendments.
And while I'm at it, if you don't mind, Nicole, my understanding was last time in 2016 there was a field trip maybe that certain individuals were able to go, and myself I'd be interested to witness a mountaintop wind farm or project to really get a bird's eye view of the thing. Would that be something that you would help us organize, and maybe the county staff could help us think about?
We'd be happy to do that.
Sure.
Nicole, while I have you here, and just while I'm thinking about this, we had, last time, maybe the third party requirements maybe were a little bit lax. Just thinking back on some of the things, if I can, and I certainly like to have the board members be a part of this discussion, because I think taking a look at those items, we take a look at the noise last time, we took a look at the environmental situation, maybe the decommissioning, but we never took a look maybe at the full financials of that, the land values. I mean, mechanical abilities for the project to be on top of that. Those items I think that are important to take a look at, and any other items that the board members may project as a future to find out if this is going to work or what's going to deem dangerous. The other portion to that I'd like to find out, I know the text amendment has to go through, but what I don't want to do is have our constituents be responsible for paying for a third-party study. So the process of how we can get that to be applicable to having Apex pay for that instead of our constituents, how is that working?
Sure. So we forwarded invoices from the third-party consultant to Apex at the. They were billed twice at the process. We could certainly get a concrete estimate from the third-party consultant and ask that either a portion or the bulk of that be paid up front. We could certainly process a refund if we needed to do that, but I'm happy to reach out to Apex and the reviewer to get more information about how to get that process completed at the onset of the study.
Okay. And to the board members, is there any other items that you feel necessary for this third party? I don't want to leave anything out, as we may have overlooked some things last time. I don't want to leave anything out here. So is there anything else you guys see that might be something else to look at?
I think some of your constituents were concerned with how the windmills would affect the wildlife, birds.
The environment, which we have,
right, and which Apex said that they would be checking that every so often and giving reports on it. I think they need to know that.
Dr. Scott Horn, do you have a list there that
I do?
Would you mind reading that for me?
The list presently for the third party that I have got in front of me here is the financial, the noise specifically. I know that we talked about the noise you can't hear, but
infrasound. Infrasound.
Yeah, infrasound. I don't know much about that. I don't know if that would be specifically in that. Land values, environmental. Number 4, number 5, the decommissioning plans. And number 6, the mechanical abilities of the project. So those listed again, and any others that the board members may see deemed necessary.
Nicole, I'll ask you, I mean, you were involved last time, the third-party review, this seems more comprehensive. I wasn't necessarily involved. Would you agree this is much more in-depth?
I would agree. I think there were components that were touched on, but I do believe that there is some room to further dig into the items that Dr. Scott has mentioned below. We could certainly reach out to the one that who submitted a bid for the contract and make sure that that is something that they have the capacity to either do or sub out.
Right.
Also the shadow and the flutter effect. I think that's what they're doing.
Flicker.
Is that what I said?
Yeah. The shutter.
Close enough.
Dr. Scarhorn, to respond to your question, I think those topics are great. I think a lot of the question is how deeply do we go into some of them, financial especially. And I just hope we look at the holistic financial picture, hidden costs, for example, and real kind of dispassionate analysis of the effect on the financial effect, positive or negative, on the electrical grid. You know, who's really paying for the power?
Right.
you know, those types of things. In other words, the financial could get pretty complex if we look into it and see if we probably should.
I agree.
All right.
I think I have one more item, and that's it with that. Thank you very much. Last week, we all heard some information. Well, not everybody probably heard the information. That's why I'm here on you all. But our administrator contacted me and said he had some news, and the news was not good. We unfortunately were not a recipient of our BATI grant. This Friday at 8 o'clock in the morning, we're going to discuss more action, the next action in play from the broadband commission. So hopefully we'll have some more to bring to the table, but as far as right now, we were turned down with the BATI grant. So we will find other ways or other means of getting some other individuals. As somebody put it earlier, is that we have another rabbit up our sleeve. So hopefully that works.
Okay, any other board members' comments before we get into appointments? All right, under appointments, 15A, the term of Mrs. Peggy McDonald, the building code board of appeals expires on March 17th, 2020, this is a 4-year term. Do we have any
motion for reappointment?
She does want to be reappointed. Okay, motion to reappoint Ms. Peggy McDonald, the building code board of appeals. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, any question on that? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried. 15B, determine the Blue Ridge District representative on the Board of Zoning Appeals expires on March 31st, 2020. This is a 5-year term. Does that representative want to be reappointed, Mr. LaRoe, you know? Okay, Cash. Right, Cash does want to be reappointed. I'll make a motion that he is reappointed on that.
Second.
And a second, any question? Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carried. The Fincastle District representative on the Board of Zoning Appeals has resigned. This term will expire March 31st, 2023. Dr. Bailey, do you have any replacement or recommendation for it? Okay. All right, I don't have that on this paper. Mr. Steve Owen has resigned. Okay. Staff has been working with Dr. Bailey to find a replacement. Ms. Beth Leffel has been contacted and she's willing to be appointed to the BZA. We hear a motion to accept that.
So moved.
Second.
And motion is second to appoint Mrs. Beth Leffel. And all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Okay, motion carried. Okay, there are vacancies on the community policy and management team for the court services unit Sheriff's Department. These terms expire on September 1st, 2020. Shirley Thompson's name has been submitted for appointment to the CPMT representative for the county's court services unit. And Samantha Higgins will be the alternate member. Do I hear a motion to appoint those two?
Motion.
Second. Have a motion second to appoint these two ladies to that CPMT. Any question? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Sheriff Ronnie Sprinkle was previously the alternate Sheriff's Department representative on the CPMT. Sheriff Matt Ward has agreed to be appointed as the new alternate CPMT member. Do I hear a motion to appoint Matt Ward?
So moved.
Okay, hear a second?
Second.
Okay, motion and a second to appoint Matt Ward on the CPMT. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion carried. 15E, ratification of Mr. Patrick Kenny as an at-large member of the Blue Ridge Behavioral Healthcare Board of Directors for a 3-year term to expire on December 1st, 2022. As for the attached letter, the Board of Supervisors being requested to ratify the appointment of Mr. Patrick Kenny as an at-large member on the BRBH Board of Directors. Do I hear a motion to do that?
So moved.
Okay, all right. So moved. Okay. Any, we hear second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Okay, then, you know, and 15F, reappoint Mr. Ken McFadden as the county representative and Mr. Luke Campbell as an alternate member on the Western Virginia Regional Industrial Facility Authority for 4-year terms to expire February 3rd, 2020. Do I hear a motion to appoint these two?
Motion.
Second. A motion and a second to reappoint these two to that position. And all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay, then the motion is carried.